Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here. And Trump met in the White House with a terrorist. Well, this is pretty big news, and many of you have probably already seen this come out. But of course, President Donald Trump met with al-Jolani, now Sharaa, of Syria in the White House, and even had him try on different kinds of cologne and joked around with him. And the whole thing to me is really sick because, of course, we've seen this kind of stuff before. We saw, of course, Marco Rubio, his Secretary of State, meet with ISIL and help arm and fund them. And of course, we saw people like Zbigniew Brzezinski help arm and fund Mujahideen back in the late 70s as he was bringing forward the Trilateral Commission. This is insane stuff. Jolani was also known as an international terrorist by the FBI for years for doing bombings on buses and in schools and doing horrible things to innocent civilians, and was considered one of the FBI's most wanted terrorists, of course, for his involvement with Al-Qaeda. But now everyone loves him because he's teaming up with Israel to bring down or to take over Syria, as he did earlier this year, overthrew Assad, which is something that I reported on and exposed back many years ago in my video called Exposed 1980 CIA Documents Confirm U.S. Plot to Destroy Syria, which I put out back, let me see here on YouTube. It says April 7th, 2018. And again, it literally gives you the step-by-step on how they were going to do it. And it's exactly how it was done. This is all one big scripted maneuver to once again perpetuate insanity in the Middle East. And we are going to dig into this today and more. But before we do, I urge people to check those links below and help support yourself while supporting us at the same time. Check out vni.life/wham, W-A-M. And there you can get a bunch of super supplements from, again, Victory Nutrition International. Amazing stuff. If you use code WHAM15, W-A-M-1-5, you'll get 15% off. Or if you just subscribe and save, you'll save 20%. On your order. And again, this is amazing stuff. Protovite is one of my favorite, 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients in one bottle. Again, this is a before and after. So you see the circulatory issues and reduced negative charge. And again, there's no negative charge within the red blood cells that are not freely flowing. The white blood cells are small. Look at what happens 5 minutes after taking Protovite. Negative charge restored, red blood cells freely flowing, white blood cells 4 times their size. Absolutely amazing stuff. This usually takes a month to do, and it happens in 5 minutes when you take Protovite. So I highly recommend people check that out, as well as all the other amazing supplements over at vni.life/wham, W-A-M. And again, that's code WHAM15. The link is in the description. Anyway, let's get into it. Make sure to hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. Syria signs declaration to join U.S.-led coalition to defeat ISIS terrorist group. Now, of course, the United States government, MI6, and of course, Mossad helped arm and fund ISIS in the first place. They always do this. They did it with the Mujahideen, Taliban, Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, of course. They've done this again and again and again. They've done this, of course, in the past with all these major countries. They overthrew the Shah in Iran in 1953. And help prop up their government. And then the Ayatollahs tried to take over in the Islamic Revolution. And of course, what happened with that was the United States government helped arm and fund the Ayatollahs against themselves. We saw this with the Vietnamese. Ho Chi Minh got armed and funded by FDR in the White House in the early 1930s while the French were being slaughtered in Vietnam. And those weapons were fought against U.S. soldiers later on. Of course, we could go on and on and on. The Bolshevik Revolution, and of course, the arming and funding of the USSR and Joseph Stalin. We could go on and on about the Iraqi Ba'athist Party in 1968 and 1983, or of course, the coup that we saw in Ukraine. We could talk about the propping up of China, which Zbigniew Brzezinski was involved in, alongside people like Henry Kissinger in the 70s. Again, we could go on and on about this. They create the enemy. Israel armed and funded Hamas. I mean, it just goes in a circle. They need the right crisis to bring in their opportunity to take over further control of a population. And it's absolutely sick. And Jolani is a guy who was wanted for many, many years by the FBI as an Al-Qaeda terrorist. There's photos of him, which I won't show, in this video of him holding beheaded or decapitated heads. Jolani at the White House looks like he has, it says here, looks like he has jihadi imposter syndrome, says Rabbi Camille. Now, again, this guy works for Israel. Actually, you could say that for both of these people in this photo. And you could say that about any Democrat, too. For those that are about to start spouting nonsense about whataboutisms, yes, all around everyone, they're blackmailed. You can see your recent Epstein videos. Rudy Havenstein wrote, sigh, as Donald Trump shared. Remember, all these freedom fighters in Syria want to fly planes into our buildings, he said August 28th, 2013. And here he is shaking hands with Jolani. Again, now named Sharaa. Look at this level of rehabilitation of an image. Peak multipolarity, says HK. The West funds Jolani, Israel trims him, and the jihadi fanboys still call it a revolution. 2008 versus 2025. I mean, it's quite incredible. And they do this all around the world for, the purpose of creating these puppets, these proxies. Syrian girl says, I don't want to hear about Mandani is a scary Muslim while Trump shakes hands with the head of Al-Qaeda, Jolani. And of course, I'm not a fan of Mamdani because, of course, he is promoting insane collectivist policies. But I also don't care about politics at all because it's all a lose-lose battle. And the win is with you as an individual, not the voting booth. But anyway, that's another situation entirely. It's just crazy that this guy who was wanted as a terrorist, up to $10 million reward from the FBI, is now meeting in the White House. Because all the while, all these Al-Qaeda guys were run by the U.S. government and, of course, the Israeli government and MI6 in the first place. And then we see Trump joking around with Jolani here with a cologne, sprays him on his neck, gives him some to bring home. Of course, if you ever spend time in the Middle East, and I have spent a lot of time in the Middle East, including in Syria, people love their cologne. It's just a crazy thing to see here. This is not going to look good. It's not going to age well. It's going to age like milk. A Syrian girl points out, Syria war, this is from a few years ago, at least 68 children among 126 killed in bus bombing. That's Jolani from 2013. Damascus mosque suicide bomb blast aftermath video. Syria suicide bombings picks 20 killed, dozens wounded in suicide bombing on Syrian church. Yeah, Jolani massacred Christians. Double bombing kills at least 41 children at school in Syria. These are all stories. They go back to Jolani, though I will say Jolani is just a puppet in it. Just like it's not like actually Bush that blew up the building or blew up, a school in Iraq. It was the military-industrial complex. And what is a military-industrial complex? It's also in itself a proxy of a much darker, nefarious entity that, of course, is closely connected to Israel and these others. But I call it evil. And it's beyond sight and sound. Jolani finally meets with his twin brother Zelensky, the Syrian girl. Two of the most disgusting CIA pawns on the face of the earth. Well, I'd argue that's Mossad, but yeah, CIA is a part of Mossad, so yeah, sure. Again, it's crazy. They could be brothers. It's like they're farming these people in cabbage patches and in somewhere in the Middle East as their proxies. Antiwar.com says Serious Sharaa says good progress made on potential deal with Israel. The former Al-Qaeda commander said Israel was always concerned about Iran and Hezbollah's presence in Syria, which his forces ended. Yeah, why does this guy, now named Sharaa, why is he so obsessed with pleasing Israel? Well, and by the way, why doesn't ISIS or Al-Qaeda ever attack Israel when it's right there, but they attack everyone else? Good question. Well, the reason is because they were armed and funded by them in the first place, but also look at this war in Syria. Jolani takes over. No shots are fired. And by the way, I mean, there's shots fired now as they're torturing Alawites and Christians. But by the way, I talked about this again back in let's see. It was April 7th, 2018. I did many videos on many different issues in Syria for years, long before this. But they wrote a document in 1983, September 14th, 1983, on the CIA website. You can still find it, bringing real muscle to bear against Syria, where they talk about killing or overthrowing Assad and utilizing military from coming into the borders from Lebanon, from Iraq, and from Turkey, and then going after Alawites, Christians, Sunnis, etc. In fact, if you look at my original article from 2018 here, I wrote one document called Bring Real Muscle to Bear in Syria from 1983 talks about covertly orchestrating simultaneous military threats against Syria from 3 border states hostile to Syria, Iraq, Israel, and Turkey. Sorry, I meant to say Israel, not Lebanon. A 1986 document called Syria's Scenarios of Dramatic Political Change goes further in depth as to how the destabilization of Syria must be done, including staging coups against the government and causing uprising of Sunnis against Alawis. It literally gives a step-by-step guide on how to create a problem, get a reaction, and then apply a solution, which would be a puppet government, with the United States reaping the benefits of such a puppet government. Without explicitly saying false flags, the documents most definitely examine the possibility. These documents show a long-time push by the United States to take over the Middle East and fabricate problems in order to get the go-ahead to invade, even talking about major attacks in public squares. Sound familiar? Much of the plans mapped out in these declassified documents were implemented during the Arab Spring. Then the rest of the script has fallen right into their hands. The instability with Russia is a big factor. Diplomats kicked out of the United States. Obama and Hillary talking about no-fly zones in Syria. Then later on, under the Trump administration, former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Ambassador Nikki Haley said their priority is not to overthrow Assad, and even spoke of possibly working with him. Well, that changed quickly. The media and government wants us to believe that days after being let off the hook, Assad, for absolutely no reason, used sarin gas on his own people, mostly children, basically begging the emotionally triggered U.S. public to invade. Well, they followed suit, and Trump ordered the attack on the air base in Syria, nearly hitting Russia. Everything has escalated from there, including a coalition of Russia, China, Iran, and other countries against the U.S. as Russia threatens the United States with military retaliation in Syria. Now, this is an article I wrote back April 7th, 2018. So there's 2 documents there. Bring Real Muscle to Bear in Syria, 1983, and the 1986 document, Syria, Scenarios of Dramatic Political Change. And all of them talk about exactly what we saw in January this year, my friends. Down to the detail, what we saw in January with the overthrow of Assad, and then the torturing of Alawites, by the way, and Christians, and people being forced to their knees to crawl on the ground as they're beaten, stabbed, and of course, shot in the head. Horrible, horrible imagery. And of course, again, this is all by Jolani's forces, who, again, was is head of HTS, formerly al-Nusra Front, and of course, Al-Qaeda. And they were armed and funded by Israel, and openly so. And of course, they're bordered with Israel. They go in, they salute Israel. They want to make a deal with Israel to go after ISIS, which was also armed and funded by Israel in the United States. Again, problem, reaction, solution, repeat. And Jolani is vocally anti-Palestine and anti-Gaza. Why would, if they're radical Muslims, why would they be? See, this is the exact situation that I talk about so often. We have people saying we love Israel because like they are the only ones in the area fighting these jihadists. Who put the jihadists there in the first place? Yes, there's a long history of some radical Muslims in the area, but who put the jihadists there? The Wahhabist Islamic people in that region in the first place. Look at Afghanistan in the 1960s and 70s. First world place, women driving cars, working, all that kind of stuff, wearing short skirts, wearing bikinis on the beach. What happened? Now we have the Taliban running it after the U.S. overthrew the country and destroyed it for years alongside Israel, who armed and funded these groups and then plotted to put these Wahhabi terrorists in the region so they can justify everything that they do. Of course, Netanyahu saying himself that it was 9/11 was very beneficial to Israel. And then we could talk about, the issue of the art students and the dancing Israelis and everything too on 9/11. But my point is, he openly said it benefited him and then bragged about sending migrants to the West, which a lot of these conservatives that love Netanyahu, that claim to be Christian, don't care that he's bombing churches and can't stand all these migrants coming into their city, and then bow to Netanyahu, who is creating all these problems in the first place. Well, he's just a one of many within the Israeli government. Remember, people like Smotrich, the finance minister in Israel, talked months before Syria was overthrown that the next step will be to overthrow Syria and expand their borders through Syria. And now we're seeing Israeli forces in Syria. They claim they had nothing to do with the HTS offensive. That's nonsense. Of course they did. And now they're putting their flag down on the soil. And why wouldn't, I mean, if Jolani can't stand Assad, who the people really liked, a lot of Syrians loved Assad. If they're putting that flag down on that soil, the Israelis, and Jolani was against Assad, but not against Israel, what does that tell you? Isn't it obvious? Everything I see that happens in Syria is so damn obvious. When I went, everyone I talked to in Syria said the exact same thing. They saw the U.S. government, Israel, and Turkey and other countries bringing in military equipment over the border and building shacks, and people with balaclavas would get out. They'd have a bunch of guns. A few days later, they blow up a place, and then they'd say, "Oh, look, it's ISIS." And then Israeli planes would fly over, drop papers out of the planes that say, "Get out. We'll be bombing in 10 minutes," making sure that the people around that shack knew that they were coming, so they'd leave, and then they'd bomb the shack, and then accidentally, quote unquote, have collateral damage that would hit a school or a church or a business, a place of business or a home, and kill innocent civilians. Sound familiar? Same things happen in Iraq. And again, this is the idea of the guise of peace. Why didn't Trump meet with Assad? Maybe he did. Maybe I'm missing something. I'm pretty sure he didn't. I think he's had a couple conversations on the phone with him. Assad spoke English. So, I mean, he's in Russia right now in hiding. And this isn't an endorsement of Assad, of course, but let's be real. When I talked to people in Syria, most of the people liked him. Some didn't, but most liked him. And they all told me the exact same damn story about the West intervention there and how they're staging false flags. And this is from personal experience. Okay. So, it really pisses me off when people say that all sounds crazy. I've witnessed this nonsense myself, and it really pisses me off when I see people, keyboard warriors, going, "Oh, well, what do you like, radical Islam?" It's so much more complicated than that. And Syria was full of Christians. It wasn't just a Muslim country. In fact, it's one of the most historic Christian countries in the world. And of course, going back to of course, the Assyrians and the Sumerians and the Persians. I mean, not to mention eventually the Ottomans. My point is that region has so much history. They've devastated it. It's a beautiful country. And look what they've done. Same as Iraq, and it makes me sick. And now Trump is meeting with Jolani in the White House, the guy who helped orchestrate this coup alongside the Israeli government, obviously the U.S. government and MI6. And this is a peace president who wants a Nobel Peace Prize after being nominated by Benjamin Netanyahu, with Hillary Clinton saying, if he gets this war over, makes this war end, then I support him getting a Nobel Peace Prize. He's a neocon. He's exactly what he fought against in 2015 and 2016. At least that's what the PSYOP made us think he was doing. Now he's teaming up with Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio, who, again, I want to remind people, Marco Rubio helped arm and fund ISIL and ISIS with John McCain and Lindsey Graham. These are older photos. And now he's a Secretary of State. When he was back in November of last year, about a year ago, when they said that Marco Rubio was likely to be the Secretary of State, I reported on this. But I've been reporting on Rubio, Graham, and McCain for a long time. And it's so typical. Democrats, Republicans, don't play the political games with me. It's all paradigm. They've all done this. And I mean, Reagan as well, meeting with the Taliban in the White House. How does that always work out, my friends? Every damn time. How does that work out? I'll tell you how it works out. More proxy wars, the circular structure of which leads back to more crisis, which allows them to justify in their heads coming back in with more problems. Problem, reaction, solution, repeat, the Hegelian dialectic. Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, former al-Qaeda leader, told the Washington Post in an interview published Wednesday that good progress has been made on a potential deal with Israel, though he said any agreement hinges on Israel withdrawing from the territory it has captured since its forces ousted former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in December 2024. Now, Israel claims they had nothing to do with that, and initially Syria said they had nothing to do with that, but of course they do. And now they're creating this fake imagery of Israel and HTS are slightly at odds in the region. Let's give our head a shake. While it supported the regime change effort, Israel used the alleged threat of Shara's group of jihadists known as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham to invade southwest Syria beyond the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights and the buffer zone established under the 1974 disengagement deal. Now, again, this is an interesting example of how Israel will support a team, and then once it has its way, it'll overstep. But of course, at the end of the day, as far as overstepping, it's the people that are saying in Syria that they're overstepping. Generally, Jolani is in agreement because he let them in. He opened the door. Knew I was a snake when you let me in, as Trump used to talk about at all those speeches years ago. And I quote, Syria got into war with Israel 50 years ago. Then in 1974, there was a disengagement agreement, Sharaa told the Post. This agreement lasted for 50 years, but when the Assad regime fell, Israel revoked this agreement. They expanded their presence in Syria, expelled a UN peacekeeping mission, and occupied new territory. Well, again, Smotrich said back in, I believe it was October, maybe November of 2024, right before this all happened, that they plan next to expand to Syria. And that's part of the Greater Israel Project. So everything is going exactly as planned. And again, looking at this photo of Reagan in the White House with the Taliban, or previously Zbigniew Brzezinski with the Mujahideen, it tells you everything you need to know about the history of this. And now seeing Trump in the White House with al-Jolani or Sharaa. Marco Rubio with ISIL and, of course, ISIS. It goes in circles forever, my friends. I'm so tired of it. And there will be the supporters out there that will try to justify it. And, it's so annoying how many of those people that used to be very outspoken about the left-right paradigm and anti-war and all that kind of stuff, but when Trump does it, it's okay. Same with his first administration. It shouldn't be a surprise. His first administration, he paired with a lot of neocons, John Bolton and Rex Tillerson, and etc., H.R. McMaster, when it came to Syria and when it came to Yemen and these other places. And now he's bombing all these places. He's going after Venezuela without any declaration of war. Not that that would actually mean anything to me because they're still killing innocent civilians in disguise under the guise of attacking these cartels, which, of course, they armed and funded in the first place. It's the same thing in South America and Central America. It's the same thing. It's just a different form of PSYOP, but it's the exact same basis to create a proxy and create a problem, reaction, solution, repeat. And so while I see all these photos and videos coming out, I think people are largely missing the point of who Jolani is, why they're doing this, what goal they will get out of it. It's a Greater Israel Project, and Trump and all the other politicians and people in Hollywood, etc., are blackmailed by the Mossad blackmail ring, including Epstein and many others. There's a lot of other people involved in that blackmail ring. That it's not just Epstein; it's still happening. Not just Diddy. It's not just Jimmy Savile. It wasn't just Peter Nygaard, and it's all meant for the same purpose, to bring in that Greater Israel Project and shift powers from the west to the east in an organized way that will seem disorganized when it's happened because they want it to look real. And next thing we know, we'll be in the new digital system under the guise of emergency orders, because without them, We won't be able to have the conveniences and the safety and the national security barriers to live freely, whatever freely will mean at that point, because we're talking about the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum's idea of everyone being on digital IDs with CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, in 15-minute cities with food rations according to your social credit score and carbon credit score, which again I report on and I have for a long time, and I've been talking about for 19 years now, coming up on 20 years. My goodness, I can't believe it. So again, people unsubscribe in mass every time I call out Trump, but he's the guy who is the president right now, and he's the guy who is a psyop. He is a guy who is following along with all of the neocons that he claimed he was against. And it's been so normalized that we have people that were generally anti-war, anti-Iraq war, anti-military industrial complex, anti-false, that knew about false flags and knew how they were creating these things in order to bring in the fake solutions. Now going, oh, well, it's different when it's Trump. Like, it's so exhausting. It's so exhausting to witness. And I mean, yeah, there's more people waking up, and a lot of people are pushing back against Trump more than ever before. I mean, not just like the left, but people that are supporters of him. I'm pissed off about the Epstein thing, pissed off about the Ozempic thing, pissed off about the pharma thing, pissed off about the war thing. But you still have enough people to keep it afloat, the mega movement of people that are being used as useful idiots, pretending to be anti-establishment while supporting overthrowing leaders in other countries and supporting and arming and funding terrorists. Isn't that so convenient? Anyway, the solution is to be more human, be more independent, be more self-sustainable. That is the basis of humanity in the first place. There's no solution within the state. There's no solution within supporting these monsters. There's no solution within the voting booth. The solution is you as an individual. I urge people to go and check out ways to get prepared for the incoming technocracy. In the description below, we have a link for heavensharvest.com. I make like no money off of this. I want to promote it because I think it's important. I want to see people actually go out and get prepared so they aren't left behind in this system that they're clearly and quickly and rapidly building around us. And it is a cage. And the way we escape is by being independent and self-sustainable. HeavensHarvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, books on how to get started, freeze-dried foods. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on this. Very important going forward. Please take this seriously for yourself and for your family, for your kids, grandkids, sister, brother, parents, whatever it might be, uncle, friend, whatever. And of course, we have a lot of options, but a lot of places have gone out of business because people aren't getting prepared. It's insane. To get out of the digital system, we have firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ has to be that exact link. And there you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package you'll get with that. Let him know in the comments of the forum that he found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, W-A-M. Of course, we do many videos with Mark Gonzalez that you can find on our channel over on Rumble or BitChute at World Alternative Media, including our recent video on the 50-year mortgage insanity. Totally crazy. We also have a video we recently did on the massive bank liquidation. Go and check those out. Anyway, I really urge people to use that exact link in the description and go and sign up with them. Of course, we have Wave Watch 2.0. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and you'll get $100 off on your order. This is amazing stuff. It's endorsed by people like Dr. Brian Ardis. There's no Wi-Fi required or anything, no apps required. Just it's a watch that has 1100 plus sound frequencies, improves your sleep, balances your emotions, enhances mental clarity, and boosts your energy. We're under attack by bad frequencies. This is a good option for people to have as a sound frequency therapy, and I urge people to go and check that out in the links below. Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we have vni.life/WAM, W-A-M, and there you can get a bunch of super supplements, including things like Protovite. Now, again, use code WAM15, W-A-M-15, and get 15% off, or you could just subscribe and you'll save 20%. Just make sure to use our link to do that in the description. Protovite has 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients in it. And the before and after, as I showed you at the beginning of the video, is absolutely incredible. The circulatory issues, the lost negative charge, the small white blood cells versus the free flow of red blood cells, the negative charge is restored. White blood cells are 4 times their size. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. This is 5 minutes after taking it. I can't imagine anything else doing anything close to this. So go and check that out below. And anyway, as we close this off, we appreciate any help we can get. We tell the truth and we get attacked for it, and we lose subscribers and we lose money. We have been bankrupted for daring to be consistent and tell the truth, but you guys are keeping us up and running, and you guys are the heartbeat of independent media. And I can't thank you enough. This is a very old gogetfunding.com campaign. So they won't let us create another one. So it looks like a lot of money, and it is, but it's over like 5 years. So we totally depend on you guys, and you guys keep us up and running, and we appreciate anything you can do on Go Get Funding. We have, of course, Patreon and Subscribestar as well. I keep having to click that I'm verified, not be a robot, and tell a robot that I'm not a robot. Like, it's such nonsense, totally unnecessary. The captchas are nonsense. But anyway, Patreon and Subscribestar, $4.99 a month or more. You'll get exclusive content, including early access to videos. And of course, that also includes us being able to send you private videos if you have any questions for us. We have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. We have a Bitcoin address here that you can scan on the screen or check out in the description of the video. And we have a Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you can donate in if you please, including privacy coins, which we appreciate as well. We have a Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise. And as always, you can find us on Telegram. Band.video, though Band is going down right away, so make sure to find us on the others. Rumble, Brighteon, BitChute, Odyssey, World Alternative Media, my friends. You can find us on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson, and on the Bad Guys TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms except for Spotify, where of course we're banned. Hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already, my friends. And until next time, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.